Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. And this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We are always excited to talk with you, but today we are talking about something we mentioned briefly in a couple of our recent episodes, but talking about leveraging your people and what that means exactly and how to do it in a way that isn't creepy or misleading or
creepy.
Well, you know, I think when we talk about leveraging people, you can misinterpret it as using people or manipulating people. And so I think we need to broach the subject now this is the opposite of what we're going to be talking about today. We're not talking about misguided use of people. We're talking about leveraging people and working together. Lynn, go.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of like, you know, when you learn a certain skill set like NLP or even discs, which we'll get into the disc behavior styles, is that it really is the intention behind it, right? Even in sales, like it's the intention behind it and how you are really depositing into the relationships. And I think that is really important to remember is the relationship capital when you're leveraging people. So what do we mean by leveraging people? First of all, I would say it is making sure that you have the right people for the right reasons, for the right results, right? So I teach a lot about like strategic alliances, for example. And so a strategic alliance can be a referral partner. It can be someone I'm going to gain knowledge from. It could be someone who has resources that could be a benefit for me, but I'm constantly thinking of like, it's a dance, right? So how am I going to deposit into their relationship capital and vice versa? So leveraging your people is really being strategic about the people that you have around you and how you can help each other gain something in return. For example, if I have a business associate who has their hand in my potential prospect pool, I can have conversations with them around would I be a good fit for your prospect pool? Would you feel okay referring me and how that would look? And so essentially, I would have conversations with one particular individual that would be able to help to get me in front of said prospects. But it needs to come back as well. And it's not tit for tat, but what is in it for them? You know, having a discussion with them around, okay, maybe my prospect pool is ideal for them as well. And then it would be introducing each other via prospect pool. It could be that, you know, I actually had two referral partners at one point, and they don't always have to be referral partners. We'll get into the other aspects, but there were two insurance agents, and one I had a security company, and one I was passing a lot of referrals to, but she wasn't really passing me too many referrals yet. And then the other one was passing me a ton of referrals, but I wasn't passing her as many referrals. And when I realized this, because I sat down and did a map or more of a columnized like list of how many referrals passed, etc. That's a whole other podcast. Anyway, I saw, you know, where we were at, and I went back and I had conversations and said, hey, I really want to make this work. I see them passing a lot of referrals. Would you be willing to up your referrals? Like, what's the disconnect? And it really was, she didn't know how to plug me in. Or the other one, I said, I really appreciate, and I was thanking her along the way, but I wanted her to know I realize it. And so essentially, I know she liked wine. I'd buy her wine for thank yous. I would take her out to dinner every once in a while. So it doesn't have to be tit for tat in the leveraging aspect. It should be, though, you should be thinking of depositing relationship capital and not just taking relationship capital. And I think that that's where the leveraging your peeps can definitely like swing, where a lot of takers take, constantly are leveraging and not depositing. And I think that that's what gives it a bad name. So you really want to make sure that there's a give. And depending on what type of person you are, there's more give than there's more take, right? So that way we're leaving that relationship in a good way. And it doesn't have to just be referrals.
Yeah. And I believe that it's really important that the whole feeling behind it, if you want to call it a feeling, the intention, that's the word I'm looking for. The intention behind it is to give reciprocally. So even if you aren't, like you said, it's not necessarily going to be tit for tat. Like it's not going to be a direct exchange of goods or services or prospects or whatever, but the intention behind it needs to be that, in my opinion, that there's a giving there, that you're constantly trying to promote and lift up and help other people. And so a lot of times when I'm looking at, for example, referral partners, I don't necessarily think about how can my business help your business? It's how can my business help your clients? So, and how can your business help my clients? So it's not necessarily directly to me, like giving me money. It's more like, how can we work together to make a better experience for your clients? And I think it's a leveraging aspect between two companies, but the intention behind it is to lift up and to promote services towards one another and to ultimately look at bettering a service or product, together. And yes, so sometimes sometimes it does work perfectly in balance, but it's almost never. But I think just important that the intention behind it is, altruistic is not the word I'm looking for, but the intention behind it should be a positive endeavor to lift both of you up.
Absolutely. And I think this is also where clear context needs to be set, and communication is really important. And if you're listening to this podcast and it's resonating with you, obviously, like you can take this and apply it. So you're probably more in the know than the other person. Really leveraging your peeps, like there should be some kind of agreement. There should be context and communication around this. Even if it's just an idea, conceptually, like how do you move this forward? Because leveraging your peeps could also be getting you into that favorite restaurant that you've always wanted to get into, that there's a 2-year waiting list, or that brand new Pursuit of Badasserie book before it comes out, because people, right? So it doesn't have to be necessarily in referrals, although we do, generally, and with all these networking groups and stuff, some that we belong to, I know that it can be more referral based. The biggest thing is with leveraging your peeps is like, okay, who can get you where you want to go? What's in it for them? What's the agreement? So setting the context, having the communication, and then checkpoints after, because things can go awry. And I was actually just thinking about this the other day, and I know I've had conversations around this, and it's like, and this is, I'm not advocating for this, but I'm using this as an example, is, people that do trade, right? They trade services.
I was just thinking that, just thinking it.
And somebody always ends up feeling like they got the shit out of the stick. And I will tell you guys, that's usually me, because I give and give and give and give and give. And I feel like I don't receive, or I'm like, no, we'll do it later. And listen, I'm knocking myself off the horse. Like, you hear that I don't always do what I tell my clients to do. Like, if it was my client, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Make sure that it's like, at least like you feel good about it. And I think that, that concept of like when people do trades is like, there's always somebody typically, not, I'll take that back, not always, there's often someone who feels like they did not get the same amount of value that the other person. And again, it's perceived value, right? It's perceived value. It's not even, in this case, especially with leveraging your peeps, it's not about the monetary return. It's about the efforts. It's about the actions. It's about, it can be ROI as well. However, when you start to get into the tit for tat, the money aspect, it can get a bit messier, and there's a lot more that's involved with that. Because, you know, some people ask, well, what about referral fees, or what about this, or what about that? I mean, all those can be good. The biggest thing is with leveraging your people is, do they have their foothold or their hands around the resources in which you want and what can be in it for them? An agreement, setting the context and the check-in points to make sure that that is continuing, because when you start to have this dance of leveraging with your peeps, you don't want it necessarily to be a one-time thing, because that can feel very taker-ish. So you definitely want to say, okay, how can this continue to build into, you know, depositing into relationship capital? Because when you start that dance, it's easier to continue to like perfect that dance with that individual versus starting a new dance with somebody else. And you're always going to evolve both out of people. I have no idea. You're always going to like go into another set of people. Like you won't for 10 years have the same set of people that you're leveraging for the same reasons, because we grow, we evolve, etc. But you also want to maximize those efforts for both of you as much as possible in that leveraging people dynamic.
No, for sure. And I'm to piggyback a little bit about talking about that barter system or that trade system, which I'm the same thing, that I often feel like I got the short end of the stick on that. But I think a lot of that has to also do with the value and that monetary ROI, that it's a time worth value. Sometimes what someone puts in their time versus what someone else thinks is the monetary value of it will also play in a part in that. And so that time worth value is another facet of what makes that exchange more challenging. So when you're working towards leveraging your people rather than this trade barter system where it has the idea that it's going to be an equal trade, but when you're leveraging, you want to think of it less as being this like you said, tit for tat exact trade, and think more about this bigger picture of what you can offer each other, not just in the immediate sense, but also in a future relationship and how that might evolve and change and grow. Because if you do, ideally, you don't want to have like leverage somebody once and then just let it go, because that does feel yucky. It does feel gross to just use somebody for a one-time dinner reservation at that top restaurant and then never speak to them again. That does feel,
and
it is, it's like a one-night stand. Exactly. So we want to avoid that in our businesses, because you don't want to close that kind of door. I've learned that the hard way. Don't want to burn the bridges while you're still standing on them. So when you're leveraging your people, you really have to think about not just the immediate effect that you want, but also the potential that you're trying to gain from that leveraging experience. And it goes both ways. So what can they potentially gain from you? Not necessarily immediately, but in the future.
Absolutely. And listen, there might be some one night stands, and that's okay. You kiss a frog, you move on, right? Or it could be something that is just very simple and needed. At the end of the day, in order to build like especially a business that can be more sustainable and scalable, you're working smarter, not harder. Leveraging your people is ideal. And there's different levels of leveraging your people. Like, and I will say, some have become very popularized, especially in the last few years since COVID, and lots of these courses have come online and different things. So an affiliate, right? Having an affiliate, that's actually leveraging your people. You're saying, hey, I will give you a percentage of said course or said membership and whatever that percentage is, that you go out and find people to buy my membership or said course, right? So affiliate fee or affiliate, right? You also have brand ambassadors. Brand ambassadors are great, leveraging your people. They tend to be more influencers. Brand ambassadors more align with the product. Some will get paid a flat fee or a royalty, but that's usually in the higher end. But these could be people who just really believe in you and want to help you, and they don't mind wearing your swag or just like showing up on something, right? Then you have your referral partners. Your referral partners are strictly for referrals, right? So, and this can be in a lots of different ways that you have the relationship capital depositing into both, where you are giving a kickback, you are maybe like taking care of them, you're giving them referrals as well, like. And then you have your strategic alliances, which to me is like the top, because strategic alliances, you guys are actually like getting your head down and being strategic about your business, which can be referrals as well. It can have affiliates as well. It can help you figure out brand ambassadors, but they're at the top level. They're more helping you be strategic. That takes time. It's depositing into one to hit masses or mass results versus like making your energy like go all these different directions to hopefully get mass results. So when you think of it in kind of tier like that, there's other tiers too, but the affiliate, the brand ambassador, the referral source or referral partner, and then the strategic alliance, like you're able to put the right effort in order to get the right results. So my affiliates, I might have essentially a group call. I might have like a recorded training for them. I might send them different emails versus a strategic alliance person. I might be meeting with them every day. Like Amanda and I meet every day of the week, every single day. We're in constant communication. Yes, we've developed a business, but before we developed a business, we were actually meeting all the time, and we were helping get each other and our businesses into the right direction and supporting each other in ways that didn't necessarily bring us clients. I mean, sometimes we did. However, it got us, it made our businesses stronger, right? It made us look bigger as an entity. So there's lots of different like ways you would dance with each of them, but they all are helping you move forward in a smarter, in a better way. And there's ways that you need to manage them as well. But yeah.
Yes, that's a sum up of a lot of different ways that leveraging your people come together, not just in a business sense, but in a personal sense too, and how it can grow. And it's great that you mentioned like the affiliates and the brand sponsors and so forth, because there is a lot of residual income that can be made from these strategic alliances, and that I think a lot of people don't necessarily, sometimes it's a slow build. I mean, it takes time to build some of these relationships to the point where you're both mutually making a significant amount of money, because sometimes it is, just a more of a mind meld in the beginning than it is a money meld. So I think you have to keep that openness to the potential of it and think a little bit bigger picture on a lot of your leveraging, because it isn't necessarily going to be, if I give them this person, they're going to give me this person and I'm going to make X amount of dollars. It's not really how leveraging works. It's not, I mean, yes, to some extent, like a referral or that kind of thing does work to some extent that way. But in the long term, you have to have a bigger picture of how you want to see that relationship build and grow for your business as well as theirs, or your personal life as well as theirs.
Yeah, I'm chuckling because we just got off a call with somebody who is leveraging their peeps, right?
Yes, very much so.
We're in a talk with somebody who was a friend of mine from years ago, and he reached out to me to help him with his business, and he saw so he's leveraging because he knows that I have the business knowledge. Then I call Amanda because she has a particular knowledge in that arena in which he'll play in, right? So it can be in business, but also, and Amanda started to touch on this, it can be in personal as well. Like at the end of the day, we do it without knowing that we do it. And here's what I mean is, you have, let's say, something happens to you, you're going to go to one person to help console you. You might go to another person to keep you out of complacency or tell you how it is. You might go to another person to just laugh and like be free, right? So we leverage people in our everyday relationships regardless. The key is to know why and know the purpose, because that's going to give you the most like filling experience and ROI, even if it's in relationship capital and not monetary. When we can understand the dynamic that we play with one another, we're able to understand how we're leveraging each other for our own personal or business needs. But it's important for us to understand what our needs are first and why we do certain things, and then start to have that dance. Because I can tell you too, when we can learn how to leverage our people or leverage our peeps, it not only saves us time, right? Smarter, not harder, but it's, and I said this, more fulfilling for both. Because if I'm constantly going to Amanda for everything, and there might be some source people who you go to for everything, but in a personal relationship, if I constantly go to the same person for everything, that drains them, because they're not everybody can hold the space for everything. But if I know that this person is, all about positivity and love and light, and I just go bathe in their love and light, and I don't always come to them with negativity or problems, because that's not that pulls them down, it's going to strengthen our relationship, right? I might go to somebody else because I'm having a bad day and I need to bitch and moan to get me out of complacency, to call me out on my shit, right? So at the end of the day, it strengthens our relationship. It does give us ROI, regardless of how you look at it. It can give us ROI. It also helps us with the understanding of our time, because when we blanket, and so many people do this, I think it's just a concept that not a lot of people have wrapped their mind around. We just go through the movement and we show up the same way for the same thing all the time. Like, we don't change the way we show up for this person or that person, it doesn't mean that we're changing who we are. It means that we're aligning with the energy in which it needs to be. We look at everybody the same way. We don't see, what's in it for me and what's in it for them on an individual kind of relationship basis. And when we can do that, and even with like on the business side, like, oh, geez, you are going to spend less time with an affiliate than you will with a strategic alliance, or even with a referral partner, with a brand ambassador. You hope. And most people do not, because they don't see the differentiation between the different relationships. Or even like, I have people who like, they feel like when they look at their schedule, like, I'm just all scheduled out, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, well, how many of those were relationship building? How many of those were sales calls? How many of those were with your current client? How many of those were working on your business? Like, when you can start to separate and bento box the efforts and energy and the context in which each person plays with you, you're able to actually show up better. You're able to get more out of it. They're able to get more out of it. You're able to be a bit clearer about the whole of the relationship and the movement of it. Like, there's just so many positives to it. And this is all about leveraging your peeps. And I know this is something like, I'm like, I teach courses on this, like in a much bigger scale, but it is just you right now. If you can just get really clear on the different people in your life. If you want to stick more in the business side, that could be easier. Like, okay, what role do they play? Am I depositing back into them? I mean, even doing a little checklist, like their name, how many referrals you've given them, how many referrals they've given you in the last 12 months. Any other resources that they have, their target markets, ways that you can deposit into them. Even a thank you note is a deposit into relationship capital, right? So yeah, that would be my task, even though I know I was just like getting all heated. I'm passionate about this topic.
You can get passionate about it. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk about things that we're passionate about, even if they're business related. So along those lines, my action step, my suggestion is the opposite scale. So for you, you've got people who, or you're assuming everybody already has people in their box to leverage out. So my suggestion is, if you don't think you have any strategic alliances, if you don't know if you have any referral partners, if you don't have any affiliates, now's the time to look at that. Well, if you're not, call me, we'll talk about it. But even more so, and start thinking about how you can create those relationships. Because even, I'm not saying that's necessarily, because your first year of your business, this could be, you could have had a business for 5, 10 years and still not really feel like you have any strategic alliances. And that, it's not a problem, but it's not ideal, because you can get so much more out of it personally, emotionally. From a business aspect, there's so much of a fulfillment that comes in with that collaboration and with that alliance. I strongly advise any business owner, look at your business. And if you do not think you have any strategic alliances, now is the time to start making them. You have to have effort and you have to put forth time and energy to do that. It's not like these alliances just come out of the air and they fall into your lap. Sometimes they do, and those are great. However, more often than not, you really have to build and work at building and communicate that connection. So my task for you this week is to look at your business, specifically your business. If you want to do personal too, go for it. But specifically your business, and look, do you have any strategic alliances? Do you have affiliates? Do you have any brand ambassadors in your own world? And if you don't, start making a list of somebody you do want to work with, somebody that you feel like you can help, somebody that you can reach out to, and start working towards that, because you've got to start somewhere. And if you don't have that already set up, now's the time to start it.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing I'm going to add to that, regardless of which one, is it needs to be dual-sided, giving and receiving. Notice I said receiving, not taking, giving and receiving, because takers are usually takers, even if they give a little bit. So giving and receiving. So you need to give and to receive. Those are all great points, Amanda. I have a few notes of some other conversations that we can have, but that's where we're going to leave you because we're at time. So Amanda, you want to close?
Get after it, my friends. Get after it.
That's right. We'll see you next time. All right, everyone, it's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.